Sorry. Good morning, welcome to Morning Outlook. This is Kim speaking on Thursday, the 13th of July. So let's have a look at these markets today. Firstly, quick review of news events that are due out today. So we've got. Let's have a look at what we've had actually. Always like to keep an eye on what's gone before. Bank of Canada didn't surprise anyone in terms of it just increased by 0.25%, so that's tied in. Press conference came out, didn't catch too much on that so far, but judging by the price action, there's still a little bit hawkish in terms of the inflation. So pound wise, this morning GDP figure came in at just minus 0.1 versus the minus 0.3 expected. Bit of sigh of relief for the government. That's what we got today. We've got some more UK. We had the inflation data yesterday for the US, and this came off as pretty much expected. I think I mentioned it. There was murmurs that it was going to be less than expected at the end, towards the end of the bell on the equity market the day before, and well, they proved true on these occasions. I don't listen to too many of them because they're so unreliable. We got the PPI out today, Producers Price Index, so that's another one just to be wary of at 130. If that comes in below expectations as well, that would see the dollar possibly sold some more. So we've seen the dollar coming off, certainly against the major euro, the pound, the yen, the Canadian dollar. So same old picture. Right, aside of that, we've got the weekly unemployment claims. Again, quite important at the moment. They sort of, for years, had no bearing on the markets at all. We've seen more recently some volatility around them, but they're coming at the same time as the PPI. So might be a muddled bit of response there in terms of traders. FOMC speaker there. Let me just check on my speakers on my other system. Let me just do that on here. There doesn't seem to be too many. We've got Bank of England, Breeden and Fauger speaking at 12:15 today, but there doesn't seem to be a bundle of speakers at the moment. So there we go. That's it on the fundamental side of things. So looking at the technicals, and well, the euro has now broken its prior highs there. Retrospectively, lovely move out of this wedgie sort of pattern, pushing up quite well. A little bit hung where it is at the moment. We'll see what happens this morning and into the afternoon. It could slide off. It would be quite nice if it does come back towards its daily pivot here. It could, well, whether or not it's worth risking a buy stop. If that does it before the news, US news, is a question. I didn't do it yesterday. It's just too risky often. As it happened, it would have been a deal of the day. Anyway, we'll see what happens. See if we can catch anything there at all. But for now, just watching. Pound likewise continued its move up from its flag. Solid move at the moment on the dailies, 4 hourlies. Pretty small retracements. It's early part of the week we saw something more, but it's just ticking along. It's quite slow. This did come back to its daily pivot here yesterday. As I said, you try and put buy stops on these. Sometimes if you put it far enough away, you won't get slipped so much, and also you've got a chance of getting something. Put it too close, you're probably going to be slipped away. You put it anyway, but there's the risk it just pips up, catches you and rolls over. So then they're not consistent. I think that's the term I'm looking for. We've seen a similar thing this morning. Just looking at where it's going, we may get the break of the R1 to the R2. It's not the best of rewards looking at this. We've just done it's very few pips in that, so we'll see how things materialise after 8 o'clock. Dollar yen has continued its ride down, so we've seen the weakness. I mean, the one of the best barometers, that and the euro, of what the dollar's really doing. And this dollar's come back on the yen here. Barely a retrace, very little in terms of retracements here. Nothing that that's really sell into even. Maybe if it comes back to its pivot and looks okay this morning, it could have set up. Now of course it could just set from where it's going. It's a very ugly spiky flag, but it is selling off here. But I wouldn't chase into this. Just wait post 8 o'clock and just be patient. The fear of missing out is what will catch a lot of people there, and then potentially you could be sitting in a losing trade given another 20 minutes or so. Aussie dollar, the Aussie's benefited as well. It's still got its range here. Be interesting to see if it gets back up to the prior highs there, into the quarterly. Sorry, that's the yearly pivot that's sitting above there. So if it gets back into that, rejected it last time. It's got the pivot and the monthly pivot around about the same level, so it might provide a target, but we'll see how things develop. I'd wait a while before I tried shorting it. It's already up to its daily R1 here, actually. That's the weekly R1, sorry, monthly R1 I was looking at a moment ago. Daily R1's already up to, touched, could push through, and that there's the quarterly R1 sitting above there. Okay, not the easiest markets to get into. Canadian dollar, nice. Again, this was one of the strongest before I left to go away for a week and came back, and it looked a little bit weaker, but certainly looking better this week. It's continued its ride there, and well, a bit messy, but it's doing it. There was the news yesterday, well, probably well avoided. It went both ways on the news. It skipped all over the place. There's the point of 1 o'clock there. It sort of it sold off on the US data, and then it actually started moving 2 o'clock as opposed to the data was out at 3. So either way, bearish, but trying to get into a trade. Is slim pickings there. New Zealand dollar, another one, it's shooting up, following the Aussie really. In fact, it's slightly stronger than the Aussie as I was looking at it a short while ago. Again, resistance sitting in those prior highs. It's broken back above its yearly pivot here, but it's into its monthly. R2 is not far away, providing some resistance. Weekly R3 actually in play at the moment, so yeah, and the quarterly R1. So there's lots of sort of resistance points just sort of running through there, which might just slow things down somewhat. But at the moment, if the weak data comes through, that's going to trump the pivots basically. So we'll just see a continuation. Data always trumps any other technical analysis. It might, after the data's been released, run into a pivot or something and stall, and that might rule the roost. But whilst the data's coming out itself, we could see it go anywhere and fast. Sorry, my throat's going this morning. Okay, Euro Yen, let's just have a look. There's nothing really going for me on there. Euro Yen, it's struggled a little bit more because of the strength of the euro, but it's still it's rolling gradually. It's looking a little bit softer on this 4-hourly picture. Bear flag sitting there on the 4-hourlies. There's the flag. You can see a little bit clearer. Obviously, we had that spike yesterday with the US news. Went all over the shop initially, selling off the euro, and then the yen yielded anyway. So at the moment, bear flag territory. There's a possible trade coming from that. I'd look probably in an hour or so's time just to be clear. It's got to break the trend line, but there's a possibility. Okay, other pairs then. I'm just going to skip through some of these quite quickly now. Euro Aussie. Was looking for the inverted head and shoulders, but it looks quite unlikely that's going to trigger now. If it breaks the low between of the last shoulder, that's voided, and wouldn't be in that trade, so that's sitting there as a possibility. Euro CAD, there's another one of those that it's a bit in between. It's got a lot of resistance into some of these pivots at the moment. Double top, maybe rolling back in the short term for the daily pivot. The CAD's getting quite a move at the moment against its peers, and we're seeing a reaction here. This is got to be careful with FOMO here. Often they just come short of the pivot then, and then continue in the way they were going, just enough to get you trapped in the trade. So I'd be wary of that. Pound Aussie, that's gone. This morning it's rolling back. See the strength of the Aussie through the Asian session, and actually over the last week and in running into this week, looking quite soft on that pairing. I say last week, yesterday, and today even. Sorry, brain's not there. It was most this week coming off. Right, okay. It's not a lot. I don't want to be selling too much unless there's a signal there. It's already put lower highs in, possibly. Maybe we've got to run down to the S2 here, the way it's running at the moment. But again, post 8 o'clock, things change often. It might just go all the way and spoil the trade, but it's not worth the risk for me. The fear of missing out on some of these trades is too strong. Other pairs, pound CAD, etc., not particularly doing too much, chopping along here. One trade I'm sitting in at the moment is the Aussie New Zealand, took yesterday, coming off the flag. Just watching the flag coming through here. It sold, broke the flag. It did have a rally afterwards. It's come off a little bit since. I'm looking to add in on the break of the lows here if it gets down that way, so there's a possibility. Okay, that's pretty much on the currency front at the moment. I mean, the fact that it's got that nice bottom there, if it does roll over, we've got a target on from the flag down to the area around its weekly S2 there, somewhere in that region. What about 106.35, area? Okay, quick look at the indices. But first, quick look at gold. So gold stretching its legs yesterday on the lower US inflation. After all that movement, it is starting to look a bit more bullish, just running into its quarterly pivot, or just short of its quarterly pivot. Be interested to see what sort of reaction it has to that. Certainly want to be buying into it. Of course, it could at some point run through there, maybe this afternoon, but let's just be wary. Often a breakthrough and a retest is a better option with something like that. Crude this morning, oil, it's continuous path to the upside. I'm not surprised about this at all. Opportunities sit there, but the retracements are relatively modest. And it's a case of just sort of catching it. I'd say catching it at the right time. 2 o'clock in the afternoon is often a point where it starts moving, where the cash market really starts flowing. You'll often see this 2 o'clock on this day. Just watch for the break in the direction. Almost, I love flags onto it, but not too many flags. But there certainly is the breakouts. Right, that's that. The equity markets briefly then. So, equity markets here, well, we're seeing CSI 300 is just get it. There we go. Looking a little bit more positive on this. It's in its wedge though. I don't trust wedges because sometimes they'll break one way, then the other way. They've only got about 50% chance of happening, so leave that alone. 50% win rate roughly. The Nikkei 225. So that's picked up overnight there after the Asian session. Looking a bit more positive. Double top has triggered in terms of those that are trading it. Maybe that this is just coming back up. It's not to me completely positive until it gets back up through its monthly pivot there. It could just stall into that. Nifty 50 just continues to push up and is positive. Aussie 200, well, same. We're still seeing this positivity coming through at the moment. There's another sort of, well, it's really badly drawn effectively. I'm cherry picking this. I'm fixing this. It really should be coming across here, and it's probably broken that trend line there. Here you go, and closed above its trend line. So, and it's a bit of a W bottom, which could maybe more positive stuff to come through for the Aussie 200. The low inflation has certainly helped the equity markets in the US. We've seen the breakout yesterday, break through the previous highs there, and off we go again, it seems. Solid movement there. The Dow's still much more sticky, but it's pretty close. How many times is it going to tap up that sort of 3450 area-ish? And the Nasdaq, well, this is one that normally benefits low inflation. There we go, and it's breaking out new highs for the year and pushing back up again. Solid movements. I would not be looking to, I've said it before, I would not look to be trying to short any of these markets. DAX, I know the temptation because there might be signals coming through, but I just see more upside. The big money's running into the equity markets. So certainly the US markets there. The DAX, well, that picked up yesterday. It's a bit ugly in terms of what we got here at the moment. Maybe above the pivot there, look a bit more positive for it, but we have had 4 days in a row. We could push on even further. The FTSE made a bit more of a recovery yesterday, but still well in the bearish zone at the moment. Again, we need to see lower inflation coming through here to take some of the heat off of the expectation of interest rate increases running into next year. So at the moment, it's really putting weight on the downside effectively. Anything negative comes out and moves it down quite quickly. Okay, that's it for me today. I wish you a great day's trading, and I'll catch you tomorrow morning. Bye for now.